but at some point the math is the math. And
I think we can do a better job using that information.
it reinforces my belief that I have the best constituents. Hello, Austin. Hello, Clawbackers. Hello, District 6. We are back live on the Clawback Live, talking about, we'll start the show. We'll do some pandemic stuff. We'll talk about the city budget and some police reform. We've got a very special set of guests today. We have the president and CEOs of both the Greater Austin Asian Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to talk to us about what their organizations do and how their members are handling the pandemic. And it's Marina Bhargava from the Asian Chamber and the new CEO and president, Diana Maldonado, who's a former state rep, former state rep from Williamson County, from our part of town, which is very exciting. And then of course, the incomparable Nagavalli will be gracing us with her amazing music. But let's get started, as we often do, with a little bit of a pandemic update. Everyone who watches the show knows austintexas.gov/COVID-19. You can scroll down. You can go to the dashboard. Here comes the dashboard. You can see all the data. We've got a little bit of a leveling off in cases, right? It'd be greater if it was leveling off down here, but it's leveling off nonetheless, better than the spikes. Our split on ethnicity is trending back in a bad direction. We gotta get back on top of that. And a lot of that has to do with the resources that we're putting out. I think we all know that essential workers are the front line. They're the front line of how we're surviving as a community. They're keeping the grocery stores open. They're continuing to build housing. They're continuing to keep what part of the economy can move is being moved through our essential workers. And we know that there's a BIPOC split when it comes to those. Far more communities of color and underserved communities are working those frontline jobs, and so we got to make sure they have the resources they need to stay healthy and to stay safe. And a lot of that has to do with you all. If you're going to the store, when you're going to the store, and I know Austinites, you're great. District 6 folks, you're great. But there might be a few folks who are from outside the city who might watch the show. Just wear your mask, y'all. Don't make it a political statement. It isn't one. The other chart that I like to bring up, we got two dashboards. We are dashboarded up. Here is our chart on the risk-based guidelines. This is basically the chart that shows where hospitalizations are. Isn't that beautiful? See how that drops down? Y'all doing a great job, Austin. Doing a great job. This is going to save lives. This saves lives. Because where you have the more dramatic risk factors is when the hospitals are full and you don't have full hospital facilities to help folks when they're in need. Look at those numbers dropping. We got to keep it going. Again, we've leveled off at the tippy top of stage 3. So we're keeping the stage 4, or the mayor has decided, and I agree with him to keep the stage 4 recommendations and the guidelines. We can keep this dropping. And as this drops, we can start to feel safer, opening a few more businesses. And then, of course, I know a lot of folks are concerned about reopening the schools. The city council has to do a lot of things. We have a lot of jobs to worry about. Running the school district is the one that I can very much say is not my job. Please continue to advocate to your school board members and to your state leadership, that conflict between what school districts are allowed to do versus the funding that is run through state coffers. The city of Austin has little to nothing to do with how that system works, but I know a lot of folks are concerned about it, and we're certainly concerned because if the schools reopen, and as the UT researchers and Dr. Escott and our public health professionals say, if that causes another spike in infections, because the kids, even if the kids are more likely to survive, I mean, even to have to say that, y'all, what does that even mean? More likely, like we're going to put our kids. I'm not on the school board, so I'm not going to get into it. But I'm just saying, those impacts don't live at the school building. They come back to your homes. They come back to the grandparents. So let's just do the right thing, y'all. And I know we've got some great school board members and a lot of school board elections. A lot of AISD, Round Rock ISD, a couple of Leander ISD, a lot of elections in November, y'all. So please stay tuned for that. And then, of course, we've got this week was a hell of a week on the council. We did some great budget work sessions. We chaired the public safety committee yesterday, got through a lot of great detail on exactly how we're going to roll out next week's budget adoption. And I think what you can expect to see is there'll be some financial investments, some shifts made in how we do public safety. I think primarily increasing investments in EMS, which during a pandemic makes logical sense. You put more money into medical. So some increased EMS investments, I think, are likely. And then the bigger, harder kind of transformational work, which, if you want to stand up an alternative service that responds to mental health calls, you got to design it, and you got to fund it, and you got to recruit and train. And so there's, just logically, there's going to be some rollout. We're going to try to get as much of that into kind of direction and writers and adopted language as we can next week. It's going to be a fascinating conversation, and I think the first step, or another step on a long and necessary road to transformational and sustainable reinvestment and reimagining of public safety that ultimately will save money and be safer. That's where we're headed. So a lot of good work coming down the line. I want to get to our guests. We've got some great guests today. I want to bring up first, I have had the pleasure of working with Marina Bhargava and the Asian Chamber of Commerce for many years. You all may know, before I was a council member, I was the president of the Austin LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Working through chambers of commerce and with small businesses is my wheelhouse and my origin story. And so I'm really glad to have Marina Bhargava from the Asian Chamber joining us today. Hello, Marina.
Good morning, council member.
So we're going to try to make this work. I know we're having a little bit of a bandwidth challenge. So I just kind of want to prompt you with, one, I want to hear how you are doing and how your family is doing during the pandemic. I want to make sure everybody's safe. But tell us about, one, what does the Asian Chamber of Commerce do, and kind of how long have you been there? Because you've been a steady leader in that organization for a while, and it's been beautiful. How are your businesses dealing with the pandemic? And there have been some specific issues related to Asian-owned businesses I'd love for you to talk about. And normally we would do more back and forth, but because of the bandwidth, I'm just going to let you take it away.
Well, thanks for asking. My family's great. I have family in Malaysia, and none of us have been infected. So, touch wood. The Asian Chamber I've been with since 2013, and actually this is my last year. I'm rolling off the chamber at the end of the year. We have found our replacement. We're going to be announcing who that is a little later this month. So I'm looking forward to transitioning with her and making sure that the chamber is in good hands and prepared for 2021. So the Asian Chamber, we advocate for, connect people to, and educate the Asian business community. Asian Americans are the fastest growing demographic in Austin and frankly in the country. And we have a pretty big impact as far as businesses go. It is a very fragmented community, so it's really more accurate to talk about the different communities. And that's reflected in the membership and in the business community here. So some folks are able to work from home and doing pretty well, although I'm also hearing from my professional businesses that business development is slow. I mean, there's so much uncertainty, and that's one thing that businesses really, it's hard to deal with and make decisions and commitments when we just don't know what's going to happen. As far as people at the front line and brick and mortar stores, I think the business community here, the Asians in particular, are a little more risk averse. We have a lot of connections in Asia, and we saw some of the devastation there. So we tend to live in multi-generational households. So it's not just about us. We're thinking about our parents and how the pandemic will affect them health-wise. So on top of everything else with business closures, we've got this racism thing that's happening too. So it's just an additional factor to consider. We've been doing some work raising issues and trying to share strategies on how to handle if a racist incident happens, how to be a good bystander, how to help folks, how to speak out. So it's weighing really heavily mentally on the Asian community. Just another thing to consider. But we're just hunkering down and doing the best we can and waiting for this to be over.
Well, I am so sad to hear that you're in your final year as the leader of the organization. You've done such a great job, and it was such an honor to work with you back when I was running the LGBT Chamber of Commerce and building kind of the coalition between the LGBT, Asian, Hispanic, and the Black chambers, which is another part of the work that I think has been really valuable for our community. If you would, before we sign off, will you just help folks understand the role that a minority chamber of commerce plays in the larger, like we already have, there's already a general like greater chamber of commerce, right? What is the role that these minority chambers really play?
We really act as a bridge to the community. So we think about systemic barriers that might exist. So for the Asian community, one is a majority of us are immigrants. So we just have not as much knowledge about how things work. Where do you get your permits from? What certifications you might need or licenses you might need when you start a business? The legal system here is so much more complicated than it is in Asian countries. So we have that role to play, educating people and sharing the information. And then secondly, with this community, language is a big issue. So usually when we think about having information out in different languages, we go to Spanish as a first, and that's rightly so because the Latino community is so large here. Well, with the Asian community, we've got folks, a majority of whom say they do not speak English very well or well enough to understand some of the information that's coming up. So we have a role playing, making sure that services and resources are accessible. And part of that accessibility is language access. And it's not just language, it's culture too. So we provide a space where people feel comfortable to come to us and ask for help and talk about and share, some of their ignorance about things. And so we have a big role to play there. And, we also do some work internationally. So not that long ago, just 12 months ago, Jimmy, you and I were in Asia, and it's like so different now. The mayor of Seoul is no longer with us. Chengdu consulate that we spoke at is closed, and Hong Kong is under a new security law. So we have that role to play to help local businesses think about expanding to Asia.
It was such an interesting experience to get to travel with you on that trade mission and seeing how the systems are different, seeing Seoul and Hong Kong and then mainland China, both in Shenzhen and Chengdu. But like you said, seeing the news come across that the consulate in Chengdu, that they had expelled, we were just there. It's so
Exactly.
wild. We were just there. And as you said, right, these trade missions really are about helping bridge cultural gaps, about the ways that there might be job growth in our community from Asian-owned businesses, and there might be economic opportunity for businesses in Austin to serve customers in Asia. And so it really helps, the rising tide lifts all boats, and that can be a lot of the value that the Asian Chamber and the other minority chambers bring. So, Marina, thank you so much, and congratulations on such a great tenure leading the Asian Chamber of Commerce. It's been such an amazing organization and a benefit to a community that does face economic segregation and economic inequality. And I find nothing feels more Austin than an Asian Chamber of Commerce or Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, these Mecca chambers, helping bridge the gap between economic opportunity and starting small businesses and the beautiful breadth of culture that these chambers represent. So thank you so much, Marina. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, prior to being on the city council, I did two stints as the board chair, which then was called the president of the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, and we did a lot of great work and published magazines and helped small businesses get started. And but it was that time that I learned that there were a lot of barriers placed on businesses by the city, and we think about how long it takes to get a permit. And the challenges and the inequities around small business support programs where you're helping budding entrepreneurs get built into a system that is not simple. And so part of that is seeking ways to simplify the process. Part of it is seeking ways to speed up the process. These are the things that initially got me interested in public office. And there's still a lot of work to be done there, but we're getting to it. Let's bring up our musical guest. One of the great things about doing this show is being able to bring on one of the things that I think we all think about as part of Austin's soul, which is live music and live performance, and not just the type of live music that that you may have already heard. Like bringing in different and various and diverse types of music, I think is another part of what makes Austin amazing. So I want to bring on our musical guest. Welcome to the show, Nagavalli. Hello.
Hi, good morning, Jimmy. How are you?
Thank you for I am, I have a fake view behind me that is beautiful, and I can't this is the best view from District 6. This is Lake Travis. And I often joke that there are only two iconic views from my district, and Lake Travis I think is a better photo than traffic on 183. So this is the photo that I use. But how are you, Nagavalli? How are you doing? How is your family doing? How are you continuing to make music in this crazy time?
I'm doing okay. I think given all things, I anytime some anxiety or something kicks in, I have been really trying to focus more on being grateful for what I have. And as you're probably already privy to, I work in tech, and then I also do music. And I'm very grateful right now to be able to work from home. With music, the first 2 or 3 months, it was hard. I wasn't quite motivated to do a whole lot, in trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? And but eventually I had to go there because it's what will keep my sanity, and it started drawing me again in about 2 or 3 months of, staying home and all that, and started working with one of my musician friends, and trying to record some music, and also started doing some live music sessions. But it took me a second to feel ready to kind of venture out on that front again. So I'm doing some live music sessions every other week on Facebook now, and also getting into some recording.
That's exciting. I want to talk more about the live show in a minute, but the type of music you create, it crosses multiple styles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in the kind of the origin story. There's the spiritual music, which I think is called budgeons.
Yeah,
or budgeons, right?
And kirtan, very right. Yeah.
Right, and even some of the instruments you play, which I think the harmonium, which is not maybe a necessarily well-known instrument. I mean, talk about the influences and the parts that bring your soul and your background. You have still family in Mumbai. To help folks understand how you pull these things together to make some very interesting music.
Yeah. I grew up in Mumbai, and I actually came to this country for grad school. I've been here. I'm dating myself now, but in Austin since late 2000. And I grew up learning Indian classical music for many years back in India. Once I came here, I initially was here for the technology job, but I'd heard that, this is a live music capital. I had no idea what that meant exactly, or how I would even pursue music in this whole new scene. But over the years, I was sitting in with my friend Oliver Rajamani, and I started writing my own songs. I write best in English, so that's the language, of course, that I chose to write my songs in. And then I started when I started writing melodies for these songs, I tried to make them sound very Western initially because, it's in English. So, but naturally, the melodies that I was writing have and had these, East Indian influences, whether it's my influence from classical music or light Indian music or Bollywood music. So I had to uh, go with that flow and start writing what naturally came to me. So hopefully, you know it's at least the aspiration that whatever fusion that I create between east west music is seamless, because it naturally comes through. It's not something that I'm intellectually trying to write or fuse. So and I call my music Eastern Soul. People kept asking what the genre was, and I was trying to explain in longer sentences, and then I called my first album Eastern Soul, and that kind of stuck. Just very quickly, the other project that I do is bhajans, like you mentioned. It's more traditional Indian devotional music. Also has a call and response aspect to it when you sit down and really play in a group or like a prayer meeting.
That sounds beautiful. I'm so excited to hear what you have prepared for us today.
Thank you.
But before you jump in, why don't you tell folks, where to find your live streams and where to find your music?
Jimmy has it right there. Facebook, Eastern Soul Singer. That's where we live stream from. I'm playing every second and fourth Sunday now with my friend and musician Katie Marie on guitar and some vocals. So every second Sunday of the month, I play a more traditional bhakti music set, and the fourth Sunday, I do more of the East-West fusion, just a broader range of music.
That's very exciting. Well, I'm everyone definitely go check out Nagavalli and her performances, but we get to be blessed with a performance right now.
Thank you.
Nagavalli, why don't you tell us what it is you're going to play and then take it away?
This is an original song called I See You. It's about, I guess, being seen and not hiding, and just not being afraid to be who you are. And again, you will see this mix of styles between Indian kind of classical and Western music. Shall I?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Staying behind the curtain, you know it's only she can make up your mind. Are you here or are you there? I see you, I hear you, I know you. Through all the walls that surround you, speaking in a whisper, wanting to be heard, counting all your reasons. Would you hide or would you shine? I see you, I hear you, I know you. Through all the walls that surround you. somehow, with the heart to bear. Won't you dare, won't you dare? I see you, I hear you, I know you, you come through.
Yay! Oh, that was so
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, Nagavalli, thank you so much for sharing your music with me and with the district and everyone watching the show. That was just absolutely beautiful. And
Thank
you have some
you.
fans. You have some fans that are watching. Some comments on Facebook as people are watching. You got a whole crew out there. So Nagavalli, thank you again. Everyone, go follow
Thank
her on
you.
Facebook and Twitter. Watch her live shows. When are they again? They're twice a month.
Yes, this Sunday is the Bhakti music set, and then the last Sunday, the fourth Sunday, is the fusion set. And Jimmy, thank you so much for having me here this morning on your show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Nagavalli.
Thank you.
Bye bye. That was really beautiful. And I love. I mean, how cool is it that so much music is being made right here in Austin, and it's so many different styles of music are being made. To me, that's what being the live music capital of the world means. It's not the live music capital of country music like Nashville might fight us over. This is the live music capital of the world, where all types of music are made and performed live right here in our own community. What a beautiful thing. Let's get on to our final guest. I'm so excited to see Diana Maldonado taking on a new leadership position in this community, someone who I have had the pleasure of voting for and who I know understands the challenges of District 6 because she used to represent us. Welcome to the show, Diana Maldonado. Hello, Diana.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to be here along with your guest, Marina. And oh my gosh, that beautiful music from Nagavalli. I mean, it was so meditative and just so peaceful and so zen. I'm like, wow, it was a nice treat. So thank you for bringing some nice guests to your show.
Well, thank you for coming on to the show. First, Diana, before we get into it, how are you doing? How is your family doing with the pandemic? Oh no,
Doing well. I mean, obviously, from home. Yeah,
you're right.
Doing
Keep
well. One of the things that I do a lot of running. So when COVID hit, we're working from home. I started tracking different mileage routes where I could run, just opening the front door. So that has been really healing for me to transition and with the pandemic, because being a servant leader, I want to be the best that I can be in my mind, body, and soul. So that has helped. I've also done a lot of meditation and yoga and part of family time also. I mean, I have 2 adult children, but I do have a beautiful 10-month-old granddaughter, Camila, and that is my joy right now.
That's beautiful. I'm glad to hear that everybody is doing well and is healthy. You have taken on a new role, right? Just this week. And
Yes.
and so, to tell folks, kind of what it is that attracted you. We heard from Marina about the work that the Asian Chamber does, and I want to hear a little bit about what the Hispanic Chamber does. But coming into the role brand new, what attracted you to working with the Hispanic Chamber?
I think part of my journey is always looking where I can be of the best service to others. And for those that don't know, I mean, I worked at the controller's office for 20 plus years. I was in management, and then I pivoted to running for the school board, and I was school board president for Round Rock ISD. And then from there, I went to the state legislature, fighting and winning a against all odds position in the state legislature representing Williamson County. So there came a point where then I did come on board. I went into the private sector because part of what I had was that I wanted to help people, but then I also knew about policy. I also knew about finance. So then I went to Morgan Stanley, the world's largest investment firm. But then at that time, I had this unsettling nudge that I felt I could do more. And when you put it out to the universe comes calling. So I was presented with an opportunity to serve the Latino community in the form of this role as president and CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, because I felt the culmination, Jimmy, of all my past experiences will help me to represent the small business owners in the form of advocacy with regards to a perspective on finance and investments, with regards to policy representation and advocacy and economic development opportunities for them. So again, when you put it out to the universe, it responds back, and you become what you believe. I truly, truly feel that, and it manifested itself. So I'm excited to take on this role and be an advocate for the chamber.
Well, I'm excited to have you at the chamber, and as I said in the earlier interview, I have such a passionate belief about the value and joy that these types of chambers of commerce can really bring. They speak to a specific community, and they speak to folks that are trying to have the American dream and make their small business and entrepreneurial dreams survive. I don't want to let it go though, because I know I've told you this story before, and I want to repeat it. I remember the night you got elected. I remember the night you got elected to the state legislature. I was living in Williamson County, and I've lived in Williamson County since 2000, almost every single year since 2000. And I remember staying up late, hitting the refresh button on the vote total and watching the numbers. And I know I remember the vote totals from my prior elections. I don't know if you remember, but I remember it being like 320 something is my recollection of what your victory number was.
It was actually I think it was 808. So when the polls opened, obviously the early voting and came in, I had a spread of 1,600 votes. So we were feeling really good. It was such a long night because President-elect Obama, we already knew he was elected, and my race just went on and on into the night. Everybody was so tired, but everybody was on pins and needles. And so what we were looking at is that gap was starting to shorten, and I was feeling really good. And at some point I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But know that my staffers knew was that the polling places or the precincts that were still out, they already knew that those would favor me. So, but of course they didn't tell me that, because obviously, you don't want to count your to be quick on it, but they knew that those precincts were still out and they would be in my favor. So yeah, it came down to, I think I won with 808 votes. So every vote does count.
It absolutely does.
Yeah. And so all the block walking, all the calling, all the events, they all do make a difference. So
well, your victory definitely inspired a lot of folks, inspired me and others who now serve an elected office. So I definitely want to thank you for stepping up and running back in a time where it wasn't clear that Democrats were getting elected in Williamson County, and showing that it were possible. And now we have 2 state reps from Williamson County, John Busey and James Tallarico, in addition to many of us like Commissioner Terry Cook, myself, Ann Duffy in Cedar Park, and Hilda Montgomery in Round Rock, Rachel John Rowe in Georgetown. Like, there's so many good folks that want to do good for this community, that have progressive values, that know that that there are problems and that we can work and we can change them. And it's not just about preserving a history that left people out. And I think that dovetails so beautifully into the work you're doing for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce about ensuring that economic opportunity is available to everyone. So, being in the role just this first week, I'm not going to expect you to know all the things your members are saying, but what is it that you were hearing and what have you experienced in the private sector as a Hispanic business leader that you want folks in our part of town that you used to represent, that you want folks to know as you take on this leadership position?
Yes. Well, again, first, it's an honor and a privilege to have been selected to serve in this capacity. And I'm really excited about the time that we are here now, Jimmy, where the pandemic is causing people to reset, to reframe, and figure out what really counts and what really matters. And with the Hispanic Chamber, I mean, it's about being a leader and an advocate for small business owners so they can thrive. And some of the ways that we're doing that is because for so many years, I mean, there's been policy, there's been legislation that leaves out minority communities and people of color. And now all of those conversations and all those disparities are obviously in the open. And right or wrong, some people still have a different perspectives on it, but I think there's more of a synergy and more of a willingness for the business community and key stakeholders to learn and really know what's a meaningful way, an intentional way to support small business owners in the Latino community, but not because they have to, but because they want to, and only because we have a strong work ethic. We have been successful for many, many years, many generations. It's just that the story hasn't been told, and we're here to change that narrative and talk about the 51,000 Latino business owners in Central Texas and talk about the 12 billion in economic power and prosperity that these small business owners bring to the table. So my part is to to serve as that voice and talk about those strengths and the qualities that have existed for a long time, but that they haven't not had that spotlight shine on them because of being pushed out or not being at the table for people to tell their story.
And I just want to say, and I'm sure Marina would agree, and it was certainly true when I was running the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, these organizations are great for all businesses. If you're a business owner and you're not in this community, you have employees or customers or vendors that are in this community. You may yourself be a customer of a business in this community, and learning how to be a better partner to your customers, to your employees, to your vendors is a big part of the value that these chambers bring. So I have always encouraged folks from any background to participate in the MECA chambers, which is a city acronym, stands for Multi-Ethnic Chamber Alliance, I think Alliance. And because it will help you be a stronger business owner, to hear these stories, to hear these voices, to understand better the challenges that, again, your customers, your vendors, your employees are facing. So Diana, any parting thoughts before we close out?
Right. No, again, it's a pleasure to be here and just to know that the chamber is doing a lot of great things. We had our membership mixer yesterday where we did a wonderful push. We were live on Instagram, and we're also doing some other social media feeds. So the membership mixer continues today. So we invite new and prospective individuals to come and learn and be part of the familia, so that we can together be successful in Central Texas for Latinos and all the Central Texas community, so that we can all thrive.
Excellent. Diana, thank you so much for joining the show today, and congratulations on taking on leadership at the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Jimmy. It's a pleasure to be here.
What a great show today, and great guests. Let me get my thing off my head. There we go. Great show, everybody. We're still doing these in 40 minutes somehow. I'm trying to get them down to like a 30-minute bite-sized chunk, but there's just so much to cover, and we barely even touched on the city budget stuff that we're digging into next week. Definitely want to thank Marina Bhargava and Diana Maldonado from the Asian and Hispanic Chambers of Commerce for joining the show today, and Nagavalli for sharing your beautiful music and your culture with the folks watching the show. And for everyone who, keep paying attention to what the city is doing. We're heading into our budget adoption next week, but it will not be the last time we talk about the city budget. We are going to continue to work through these issues because every decision we make needs to be based in data and evidence that shows that we're going to make our community safer. And in fact, that's exactly what we are doing. And so tune in. You can tune in atxn.tv. I even have that up. atxn.tv, where all the city council meetings are streamed, including yesterday's public safety committee meeting and last Tuesday's work session, next week's budget meetings. AustinCouncilForum.org is where the council members post all their ideas, so you can go and see in advance what we think we're going to talk about. And then even today, we have a Project Connect meeting, a joint meeting between the City Council and the Cap Metro Board, where we take the second to last step in adopting all of the structural documents that will set up the independent partnership between the two that will govern the project, as well as the final adoption of the map and the initial investment and the rail to the airport for District 6 and improvements for the Red Line. All kinds of great stuff happening. But I want to close out the show. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks to our guests. And here we go. Stay home, mask up. Let's get those numbers even farther down so we can start reopening the economy. Thanks, everybody, and have a good weekend.